Yo! Now, gamers, I've got a question for you. I've got a question. Do you guys want dark tea time? Because let me tell you something. Let me give you guys a little bit of a secret here. Nike wants in on dark tea time. Dark tea time enabled. Take it away, Nike. Unleash. Let's go.
Okay, so I agree with what with Grouch's post, and let's say I saw one of the response. I saw a response to it that I felt was very appropriate. It was like, okay, so you're saving the trailer for the release because you found that it has a higher impact at release, right? Okay, well, you could also do like a 10-second teaser, in advance.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be like trailer in advance or trailer at launch. It could be trailer at launch and 10-second teaser. And honestly, and if the argument is that they don't have the resources to do a 10-second teaser or release a screenshot, okay, then just pack it in. It's over.
Yep.
If a screenshot or a 10-second little teaser is too much effort, it's going to like stress the company to the breaking point. Okay, pull the plug. It's that's not good. No. Secondly, who's the community manager of the game right now? Why is Grouch the community manager? Isn't he the game director?
Yeah,
what?
I think there was. I mean, we had Double Tap for a while, but I don't think Double Tap's at the company anymore. It doesn't seem that way anyway.
Double Tap got NC Soft, so let's flame NC Soft a little bit.
Yep.
I know that they are Korean businessmen with turtlenecks, so they might not care. They might not have like the greatest grasp of like. Maybe they don't understand the Western. I'll just say they don't understand the Western gaming market. Maybe when it comes to community management and like the expectations, I don't personally understand the Korean gaming market. So it wouldn't be up to me. Like if I was saying, hey, you guys are doing a bad job with Lineage 3 community management, that would be out of turn for me to say because I don't know that. But I can say that they're not doing a good job of the Western community management for their Western MMOs. And I guess it's kind of in the name, management, meaning that like how like a shepherd, like the dog, like runs around the flock and keeps them like where they need to be.
That's how it
and,
needs
like,
to be in Guild Wars 2.
And funnels them where they need to go.
Yep.
That's what Guild Wars 2 needs. You need a community manager who is there and present, and when the community manager goes, shit, people are there's already been 3 threads on where the fuck is the trailer. Should I jump into action now and guide the herd?
That's kind of what Grouch did, right? If you think about it, like that. Yeah.
Right, but this should have been something that was done a week ago. Like that's the thing. Like you have to manage the community. You have to go, okay, instead of waiting for the fire and then putting out the fire, don't let the fire happen to begin with. And any community manager who is a professional community manager knows that you have to do that.
Yeah.
Like I'll cite PoE for an example. Before they get to spoiler season for the new league, Bex goes, here's a blog post where I tell you what information's coming out and on what day you can expect it. And that's it. And people have their expectations framed. There's no framing of expectations with ArenaNet. Like they just like, are we getting a trailer? I don't know. Are we going to get a post saying exactly like with some cool hype for the patch? I don't know. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, because no one's managing the community. And therefore, half the community is fucking dooming out irrationally. And then the other half of the community is like writing fanfic about all the raids and Wing 8 in the patch because they don't have a clue what they should be expecting.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. I really do think that's why I was so excited. It was awesome to see Double Tap so engaged, right? Like all over the place in the streams and so on, right? That was awesome. And, you know, I do have to give credit to Grouch for helping, but it's not his job, right? I think that's the thing. Like, you know, I think the reason why he's perhaps not able to be as responsive as a community manager is because he isn't a community manager. He's the game director, right? He shouldn't be here on the subreddit, like, telling people, oh, yeah, this is why we're posting the trailer on the day. That makes no sense, right? It makes literally zero sense that would be the case. So, like, it's awesome that he's doing it. He's going the extra mile. He's on the streams, right? Chatting with people and so on. He's on the subreddit. That's awesome. We love to see that, obviously. But at the end of the day, yeah, I do really think that ArenaNet need to do a much better job at managing the community, particularly when it comes to expectations and what people can see. I think the raid example is a brilliant one. I actually want to zone in that a little bit more. There were a lot of people thought there was going to be Wing 8 was going to get announced, right? That is insane. Yeah. And you can say, okay, if you read between the lines, you should never think that. And that's obviously fair. But, you know, when I feel like people want to believe, and so they kind of like will be able to rationalize it no matter what, right? They'll be, oh yeah, they've just been saving it. It's because of they had tough development times, so they couldn't make a raid, but now they're going to do it. I can understand how people would rationalize that. Someone did need to say, guys, there's no raid coming, obviously, right? And the fact that didn't happen is kind of weird, and I can understand why some people were definitely very upset by that, right? By the, you know, the lack of raid that didn't get announced, even though, yeah, it was pretty obvious that there probably wasn't going to be anything.
Yeah, I know they have a policy, a long-standing policy of when, like, so when they stopped developing dungeons, they never said, hey, dungeons are dead. They just stopped developing dungeons, and like that's their policy, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, with this patch in particular, they didn't give any framework for what to expect. Well, they did in the blog post announcing it, but I don't know. People were kind of like leaping to like insane conclusions based on that blog post.
Yeah,
like reading into it stuff that was like not there. Like I think they said in the blog post, a new map and new story. That's literally all they said, and I think that's all you can expect. And people were like inventing fanfic, like I said, to fill in the blanks of their their hopium. Yeah.
No, I really do think that one of the things I want to see over the next kind of couple of months is a lot of clarity on what the hell does the expansion look like? You know, what is that going to be? Because, I mean, look, I'm sure they don't have everything perfect, right? You know, because again, they're probably going on a pretty speedy development schedule right now, right? They're probably going for some serious pace, and I understand that. But let's be honest. They must know what the expansion vaguely looks like, right? They must have a pretty good idea of what some of these things should be shaping up to be, like what, you know, what does the combat feature look like? They must have some pretty good ideas about that. Like an example of what it could be. They must know what kind of thing the masteries are going to be. And I know it's dangerous to kind of offer something to people, right, and say, oh, look, this is what you could have, right? But I really think that some proper clarity and communication on this kind of stuff would really go a long way, because there's a lot of uncertainty left over in the community right now. And that does need to be addressed. And that's community management, right? That's what it is. Or at least tell us when we're going to know, right? I don't think they need to say, oh, yeah, this is what we're adding in the expansion. They might want to say, oh, yeah, this is when we're going to tell you. Right, what you're gonna know. Like, even if it's like, oh yeah, after the next 2 updates, then we're gonna tell you, at least you'd know, right, when you're gonna know. Right now, we don't know when we're gonna know. We don't know anything. We know nothing. We are nothing.
I mean, the other thing, too, that a community manager could do is, and I hate to say it, but blow smoke. Oh. You know, the community manager could go, look, I can't tell you what's gonna be in the expansion, but it's going to be freaking awesome, and it's going to knock your socks off. And no, we're not going to have elite specs, but wait till I'm allowed to talk about what we can show you, or what we can't, what we are going to do. You're going to be blown away, and then people would go, "Okay, I'll accept that. I can't wait to see myself." Or people would, at the worst, people would go, "Okay, then I'll reserve my judgment until then." You know, instead, people are just going to like fucking doom and go, no elite specs, therefore
dead.
IBS 2.0. You know, like if you don't, you gotta, and maybe I don't know. They just need that's just a little bit of hype that they would have to do, and again, that's management of community sentiment. is part of community management. You have to be able to read the vibe of the community on Reddit, on the big Discords, and go, what's the vibe? Okay, is this what we want the vibe to be? No. Then we have to do something. Then it's my job to do something. Problem is, there isn't anyone. Double Tap was that. And I know some people said Double Tap did a good job, but I think Double Tap was doing the bare minimum that a community manager could do. There could have been a weekly Double Tap post on the Reddit, you know, like a Double Tap corner on the Reddit where every week Double Tap posted some like info of upcoming content. Why not? And not like big spoilers, but just like, here's what we're working on sort of thing. I think part of it is localization, is that if anytime ArenaNet communicates officially, like on a blog post, they have to translate it to 1,000 different languages and like 50,000 subdialects. I mean, they cannot handle, and that probably has budget concerns. Like, because, okay, you want, like for me, write a 500-word blog post. Okay, we can do that, you know, in a half hour to an hour, right? But then, so that's a half hour of one employee's time. So you're looking at, like, I don't know, maybe $20 to write that blog post of labor. Well, then if you localize it, now all of a sudden you're up to like $500 for this blog post. So now it's like, is this blog post worth $500 or more? Then, okay, now you have a lot to think about. You know what other companies do to deal with this problem? They don't give a shit about localization to every language that they serve. I don't understand. I understand why ArenaNet's trying to be inclusive and not leave people out, but I feel like you can release a blog post in English and just let the sub communities translate it on their own or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how that goes. I think ArenaNet are very set on having it that way and having that localization, which is nice, of course, right, to have that localization. I understand that. But, I mean, I would say it would be worth it, even if they do have to. Obviously, there's going to be a good amount of expense there, right? Like, for example, I actually have a degree of experience with this because the partner program actually very generously paid for some of my videos to get translated, right? Like, that actually happened. A while ago, right? Like they essentially had that done. This was not just for me, by the way. This was for a number of partners who made kind of like new player content, I believe. And it was expensive, right? Like it was the figures they quoted, like they you know, it was kind of like a just out of curiosity thing. Yeah, it was actually quite a lot to get that done. So it's definitely not trivial, but I definitely think that it would be worth the investment, right? I think that, I think community management is very important. I mean, I feel like I'm stating the obvious there, right? But I think we can see that that's the case, looking at the community, right? Looking at the way people responded to there not being any raids. Looking at the way that there's loads of cool stuff going on in the game right now, and yet people are still kind of a little bit nervous, a little bit doom-oriented, simply because there's a lot of uncertainty and wobbliness with the way people are currently perceiving the game. And I do want to stress here, that's not, it's not about the reality of the situation, it's everything about the perception of the situation. Even though I actually do think the game is actually in a pretty good spot, it's in a better spot now than it has been for a very long time, in my opinion. I think a lot of people don't see it that way, right? I think you'll see a lot of uncertainty, a lot of worry about the future of the game and what that's going to look like. Is it going to be Ice Brood Saga? Is it going to be maintenance mode? What does no elite specs mean, right? There's a lot of that going about the place, despite the fact that, honestly, what ArenaNet is saying and doing feels very positive from my perspective, someone who's played the game for a very long time. So yeah, community management, it's good, it's effective, it works. And yeah, I know that Guild Wars 2 is definitely looking to attract loads of new players, but there are a lot of people who do play the game, and retaining those players and making sure that they're not making the game look bad by spamming Doom posts all the time on all social media is important. Like, I think that the external perception of Guild Wars 2 is that the game, unfortunately, is still a little bit dead, right? Like, that is how a lot of people feel that. And, you know, other content creators say this, right? I think Asmongold's kind of said that a few times, right? That probably doesn't help a lot, because obviously a lot of people engage with his content when it comes to MMOs and so on. But ultimately, I do think, you know, if people look at the subreddit, they look at the forums, they look at streams, they look at YouTube and so on, and if people see, like, loads of people dooming, then people are going to assume that's the case, right? I think the external look of the game is super important. And the way you improve that partially is by community management.
Yep. And like Linka says, they end up having to do these Reddit posts with
yeah,
Crouch
which those aren't translated.
Those are not getting translated. And it's another case of an ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure. Like putting out the fire, not the way to do it.
Yeah, prevent the fire from ever existing. See, I would certainly say that even even if it was expensive, I think it's an important part of investing into the game, right? They're doing Twitch drops right now, and if you think about it, Twitch drops in some sense are, they're costing sales, right? Because they're giving free stuff away, right? So at the end of the day, they're giving you something for free there, and that's basically part of like building hype and building the community. So there is some value there. They do the Prime giveaways too, right? And give people free stuff with those. And yeah, sure, it's not like they're not like they do give away some like pretty valuable stuff sometimes, but still it's something.
Well, plus they got to pay Amazon to do that. Like, that's not cheap. Those are big. I am sure that Twitch drops is not a cheap thing to run.
Yeah, for sure.
I would imagine they pay quite a bit for that advertising.
We need a community manager.
We do, and the community manager has to have the mindset that moderating the official forum is not the beginning and ending of their job.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to repeat myself, but I do think that I was liking what Double Tap was doing, right? Double Tap was present, right? Like, I think that was an actual, Double Tap was an actual presence in the game, right? I think a lot of players were familiar with this.
You can't be a community manager unless you're in the community.
Yeah, you have to be in. Yeah, you must be in.
You have to play the game, and you have to associate with players.
Yep. That's content creators, players themselves, of course. Not just like streamers and so on. It has to be actual players. You've got to be in. And weirdly enough, like, it's funny to mention this, but like, I think that some of the actual developers do a good job of this, right? You see Roy about the place a fair bit, right? He actually plays the game too. Grouch is active in the GVG community even, which is a very niche area of the game. Plays a lot of World versus World, right? Is about the place. CMC plays as well. Darkbringer plays a whole lot as a developer, and I think a lot of the devs actually do this in a pretty cool way, right? And that's awesome to see, of course. The devs are always here watching people take on the new strikes, like Cameron's always watching, right? Like seeing what the hell's going on. The devs are watching the raid progression back in the day. But we just need someone whose job it is to do that, I guess, right? As well.
Yeah, Crouch is an officer in Condor Dusk.
Yeah.
If Chad isn't aware of that.
Yeah. Is in the guild, Operation Condor Dusk.